Welcome to the 2020 National Weather Service Wilmington Spring Workshop. This presentation was originally given on April 15th, 2020. The workshop was organized and led by Mark Bacon, Severe Weather Team Leader. Now for our second speaker, who is meteorologist Vicky Oliva with updates to the ILM Surf Program. Enjoy the presentation.
Well, good morning, everyone. Like I said, my presentation is kind of just it's kind of an all-encompassing surf program, so I'm going to share a couple of things, including recent updates, a little bit more about my surf database, and a little bit of a refresher on how to do the surf, since it's been a while since a lot of us have done it. So, granted, I was hoping that we were in the middle of doing surf when I do this presentation, but we're what we got. So, all right, so get started. I'm sure most of you have seen the email, and just in case anyone got overlooked or if anyone has questions at the end, we are delaying the start of our surf for this year until early May, and it's a very rough timeline. It's going to be based on, what's going on, getting more feedback from our partners. Our coastal partners just felt it best not to start right now getting the state of things. I think there's very little beaches open in our area. So Moorhead did start their surf today, and they're aware that we're waiting and we're okay with them starting. So we stand out, but this is a unique situation. So we'll let you know as we know more. But for now, early May is our current timeline. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of 2019, some stats and some stuff that happened in the area. So last year, there were 17 surf fatalities in North Carolina and 2 in South Carolina. 10 of those, about 11 of those in total were rip current related. For our CWA, there were 5 surf fatalities, 2 of which were rip current for last season. So I think on average, we had about 7 rip current fatalities a year in the Carolinas. So we're working on, getting these numbers down, and unfortunately we did have a bad year last year. So I wanted to give I thanked all our beach partners when I met with them, but I also want to thank those who worked on the desk last year. We had a record number of lifeguard reports last year. All our beaches had increased. Also, we got reports from all our beaches more than any other year, for a total of 1,300 reports. Rice will be reported every day across our season. Also, number 1 in online reporting. Granted, that was only because San Diego only reported half of their year, but I'll take the win where I can get it. So we did a great job last year. We got a lot of data from lifeguards, and it was a pretty successful year. So some stats from our surf forecasting. For surf heights, we did numbers were pretty good. We over forecasted for Sunset Beach and Myrtle Beach, and under for Riceville, Carolina, North Myrtle, but nothing too large. Sunset Beach did have an improvement over 2018. The 2018 numbers were pretty bad. They were, as those who worked the desk knew that Sunset Beach liked to report, very high surf height. They were having a hard time judging them, but they have improved last year. We still get odd reports from them, but overall they're getting better, and I think maybe the calc surf height that we installed mid-season last year definitely helped to improve our numbers as well. So I'm looking forward to using that procedure all of this season and seeing how our numbers work out and how that goes. And as far as rip current reports, as you can see on the chart, Riceville Beach reported, as we know, they report a lot of moderate rip currents. So last year they had over 60% of the season who were moderate or strong. Carolina Beach also had an above normal rip current year. Between distant hurricanes, and we had a very active July through September on our beaches. Surprisingly, those North Myrtle and Myrtle actually had below normal rip current activity, which would explain my next slide for our rip current stats. So for our rip current forecast, Wrightsville and Carolina Beach, pretty good steady numbers. We're pretty good at forecasting rip currents for them. Granted, the POD for Wrightsville is a little low given their propensity to report moderate rips, but it's still decent. The thing I was concerned about from 2019 was we had a very high false alarm rate for both Myrtle and Sunset Beach. Like I said, Myrtle's reported below average rip currents, but in the July and September timeframe, we were forecasting pretty strong rips for them. And so this false alarm rate last year was actually higher than for many years. And so it's something that I want to keep an eye on this year and see if we can get that number down and maybe what happened last year that maybe we missed something that could have lowered that false alarm. But overall, I was pretty happy with 2019 season. Just want to keep working on the Myrtle rip current because it's definitely a unique area. So as you heard, we had a meeting with our partners back in March. So this is just a picture of all the guys that showed up. We had representatives from all our beaches except for Wrightsville Beach. We also had Duke Brown from Horry County and Spencer Rogers from Sea Grant and UNCW. So it was a very productive meeting. Just great discussion amongst the group about beach renourishment and effects on rip currents, how to get better messaging for rip currents. North Myrtle Beach was talking about they're trying to acquire like a mobile sign they can put on the beach. They're working with a guy in Australia who they have a similar program there. And it was great talk getting all these guys together, and honestly the knowledge that this group has is pretty awesome, especially Duke Brown and Spencer. Yeah, they know their stuff. So hopefully I want to make this an annual thing, and so if you do it again next year, anyone that's interested, it'd be a great meeting to come pick their brains. So one of the things I want to share from this meeting that I took away was Spencer Rogers gave a really quick presentation with some of his drifter work that he's done with the rip currents. And so I'm going to show you just two quick videos from California and one from Arizona. So this video is from Monterey Bay from a few years ago. And I'm sure you've heard that there's during that if you're stuck in a rip current, one of the options is, just keep floating. Circulation will likely, bring you back to shore. I think that's the advice they give. I've seen it in like some Australia articles. And so Monterey Bay drifters, it actually shows that 90 to 95% of circulations do bring you back to shallow water. So they do kind of make a complete circuit on the West Coast. But when Spencer did some projects in our area, he did, I think there's 2 in Carolina Beach and 1 in Wrightsville. He actually found that most of the rip currents in our area lead to ejections. So most circulations, at least in the rip current he observed in his project, didn't bring you back to shore. And of course, any rip currents that occur near a structure is 100% ejection. So those won't bring you back. But just want to show this so that, I've even, had in my mind that, well, you can come back to shore, but at least from the limited research we have in our area, that might not be true. So it's still best to, if you go on a rip current, swim sideways out of the rip and then come back to shore. Don't trust that you're going to end up coming back yourself. 6 years ago, so I think he's hoping to do more, but of course you got to get money for it and volunteers. So, but I thought it was very interesting to know that, Carolina Beach and Wrightsville are unique. All right, so for the surf report database, I started this last fall. It took me a few months, but I pretty much took all the beach logs that we've had on paper since 2004 and put them into one giant Excel spreadsheet. So we have about 16 years for Wrightsville, Myrtle Beach, and about 13 for Carolina North Myrtle. And so this screenshot is just an example of what's in the Excel spreadsheet. Pretty much everything that was on the paper report, I put in Excel. Even a note section, including a forecast plus, what was observed. And I also included buoy data in here. from nearshore buoys and from frying pan. So there's a lot of information in these Excel spreadsheets. I'm still working through what I can find out from here. There's just it's a lot of data. The spreadsheets are saved on the O drive. If anyone's interested in messing around, you just go in there, copy the file to your directory before messing around with it. But there's a lot in it. There's actually two spreadsheets. One with all the odds and some graphs I've made, and another one with like buoy stats, because trying to separate them out. But the spreadsheets have a lot of graphs and charts I've made, but I just want to share a couple here that I thought had some more meaning. Like I'm still trying to sift through it. I think it's gonna be a while. So I'm hoping to keep this up every year. At the end of the year, just add all the lifeguard reports to our database. So one thing, this is all-time risk strength reports from our 4 main beaches. It's 2,500 daily reports from Wrightsville and over 1,000 for Carolina, North Myrtle. For all reports, not just one per day, we have over 4,000 for Wrightsville and around 2,000 for Carolina, North Myrtle. There's a lot of information here. But one thing I found interesting for the all-time reports is, as you can see, Wrightsville does have that moderate bias. So in 16 years, about 50% of the time, they do report moderate or high. Look forward to meeting Dave Baker or Jeremy or whatnot, and have a talk with them about what they're seeing and how they're reporting it. But for our other 3 beaches, about 1/3 of the days in the last 13, 16 years have been moderate strong reports. And so I think that's pretty good to know that, on average, about 1/3 of the season is enhanced risk currents. And when I broke it out into monthly, the Myrtle and North Myrtle Beach didn't really show any difference in the month throughout the beach season. But Wrightsville Beach does have this interesting spike in September. So since 2004, Wrightsville Beach does have about 20% of the September reports is strong recurrence. And that is likely due to, peak in hurricane season. And with these, St. Mark's will talk about it later, distant hurricanes, wreak havoc on our beaches when it comes to rip current and these long distance swells. The Wrightsville Beach does show, there's a spike in September. There's a similar spike in the Carolina Beach graph, but since Carolina Beach usually ends their operations Labor Day, there's not that many September reports, so the spike doesn't have as much significance. If you got a large spike in 30 reports, but I'm pretty sure Carolina Beach has a similar, September enhanced rip risk. And just one other thing I want to show, I know there's a lot of information here. This is average surf height based on rip current strength for our 4 beaches, including observed surf height from the lifeguards, the nearshore buoys, and frying pan. So as we already knew that increased surf heights lead to increased risk of rip currents. And so this graph just shows the same. So for, onshore nearshore lifeguard reports, like none to weak rips is average around 2 feet. Then you get to 2 to 3 feet for moderate, and then over 3 feet for stronger currents. And, frying pan makes average like 5 to 6 feet. And frying pan lead to strong rips, around 4 feet for moderate, but this doesn't mean that, 2-foot waves can't produce strong rips. These are just, average that gives us an idea of, what to look out for, numbers and significance, but pretty cool and it's again, all 13, 16 years of the data we got. So changing gears to some general rip current stuff. Hopefully most of you have seen this already, but this came up, I think, towards the end of beach season last year. Sea Grant and NOAA came up with a new rip current sign. This replaces the old break the grip of the rip. So now it's rip current, know your options. So it makes the rip current darker on the diagram, a little bit more silhouettes of people swimming sideways or, being able to stand up away from the rip current. And so we're hoping they're working on getting more brochures, signs to beaches, putting this out there to replace all the break the grip of the rips. But so you'll probably be seeing this a lot more. But when we're doing like or social media, just use this graphic for anything we post. But and I just wanted to show quickly, Steve and I, about a month or so ago, we created a couple of public awareness slides for rip currents for inland areas. Because for the Carolinas, about 46% of fatalities, rip current fatalities, are people from the Carolinas, and only 16% are people from the coastal counties. And so a large amount of people who drown in our area are from inland areas. So Steve and I are working to increase awareness for the inland offices. We created these slides to give a overview of what rip currents are, how to protect yourself. That we're trying to get this out to the inland offices that they can share this during beach season. They can promote it, bring awareness. I reached out to Wrightsville Beach and Myrtle Beach Tourism. Rachel turned me on to that, and they said that outside of South Carolina, North Carolina, most of the tourists in our area come from Virginia, Georgia, and then Ohio, New York, and Pennsylvania. We do have a lot of tourists from, of course, nearby states and then from the Northeast. It shows that, we do need to spread this message, as far as we can to, protect people. Rip currents are the #1 most frequent weather killer in our state every day. And so we want to try to change that as much as we can. And so it's just 2 quick slides. Rip currents 101 for, again, those that it's been a while since you've had to, forecast rip currents or do surf, things like that. Others, again, this will be really quick. So, rip current, strong current flowing away from the beach. Ideally sets up when the waves are approaching straight on shore. Again, the waves showing the rip current. Speeds can be faster than an Olympic swimmer. It has been measured against an Olympic swimmer, so that's why we say, don't swim against the current. You're just gonna tire yourself out and get in trouble. They can be 30 feet wide. They can be as long as, I think, 2.5 times the surf zone width. So these things can be either pretty weak or pretty huge. And so, again, bigger breaking waves, strong the rips. They usually form when there's already a cut in the sandbar offshore. And one thing I want to point out, while we do know that lower water levels during low tide usually leads to greater rip current activity, but it was brought up at the beach meeting that, there are days where the increased rip activity actually happens during high tide. Not exactly sure what caused it, but there are, rip currents can be stronger during high tide. It's been observed at Wrightsville Beach, I think Spencer Rogers said. So just because, we think low tide is the strongest rip doesn't mean that you're safe at high tide. So it's just something to be aware of, that, high tide could be just as dangerous. And so I'm sure some of you've seen, I sent out a kind of starter surf email about a month or 2 ago, but we do have a new national surf format. So pretty much all the offices in the country and Great Lakes are using this for this year. So we now include a full day 1 and 2 forecast, which includes all the variables previously used, except for the UVI index won't be on day 2. But it's already in our AWIP. The surf GUI is already set up to populate your day 1 and 2 grids. Thank you, Matt. And the example I showed here is just for Pender County. So there's a lot of details for each county. If you want to see the full surf example, it's available on our Google site under Chapter 3 of the Marine Program Guide. But it definitely kind of doubles the length of our surf, but it gives a lot of information. So I like having that full day 2 forecast to give to people. And something that want to try to do in the future. I was hoping to work on it this year, but it might have to come next year. We want to try to add a temporal resolution to our surf. They'll break it out into 3-hour increments or something to show a full 24-hour forecast rather than just, this year forecast for the day, moderate all day or strong all day. Give people an idea of when's the worst time of day, when's the best. Give a little bit more information like we do for the rest of our forecast rather than just full day, and rather than just daytime forecast as well. So the example here is something Matt put together for kind of just a quick example of what it might look like if we end up doing a surf matrix. These can be found, I think, work RFM on our AWIPS text workstation. And so looks pretty good, kind of looks like a PFM or DFP or something, just breaks out all the, surf variables into, every 3 hours. And so this would be great to get up and running sometime in the near future. We'll plan it by year, but it's definitely where we're looking to head towards. So just going to jump into a quick refresher on issuing surf and, the timeline for the shifts again once we start up, hopefully early May. We'll see where that goes. But the F shift, you got, the morning surf around 5 a.m., call the lifeguards around 10, enter those obs into the online website, and then around 11 a.m. issue a morning update surf. Morning update it's still unofficial. It's pending a pseudo lot meeting, but right now the idea is, yes, we'll have a morning update surf. That way you just, anything new you get from the lifeguards, any changes to the weather forecast, we can get that out there. And then the afternoon shifts, either the M or the P, the part of the miscellaneous duties will be to call the lifeguards at 3, enter the ops online, and then 4 o'clock, determine the rip risk for day 1 and send that to NWS chat. And then around 8 o'clock, issue the evening surf. That is for the next day plus day 2. And so I won't go over all this. Data, full details on how to issue surf is available on our Surf Program page on our Google site. It's labeled Surf Forecast Process, so if you want to review step by step, it's there. Just wanted to show some things in case anyone had any questions while we're here. One thing I do want to caution now with the Rippers forecast tool is step A, when you load data from previous forecasts. Now that we're issuing, we're doing forecasts for both days 1 and 2. Use caution when using the load data, because you won't know. You just have to be careful when you load it what day the data is loading for, because for each shift now you got to run this tool for 2 days, day 1 and day 2 to come up with your rip risk. So if you try to load data from the previous forecast, you just need to double check which day has been loaded. You can't just assume it's the next day. And so again, the output from this is, just guidance. It's encouraged to adjust it as needed if you think it's overdone, underdone, if it's a holiday, if stronger to report it today, you might not want to go to, low risk tomorrow, things like that. Like I mentioned, Matt updated our surf GUI, and so everything will be populated for days 1 and 2 for us. For the surf height, it's recommended to use option A, which just uses the calc surf height procedure that Matt and Mark set up last year. There's other 2 options there if the calc surf height procedure is not working or the output just, doesn't work for you. We do still have options B and C for the wave height grids or assign a value, but it's recommended just leave the default A. And then we also have the added step 5 where you now enter your rip risk for both days 1 and days 2. And then it'll populate the necessary grids for you. So currently, surf grids are only created from 10 to 1Z. Again, hopefully we change that to 24 hours at some point. The hazard grids, for now, we end the hazards at 0Z. this lines up with our neighbors, and it makes it easier for doing the evening surf. So if a hazard is in effect for, today, the evening surf, you might want to wait until after 0Z to issue the surf. Otherwise, you'll have possibly double headlines. Like it'll show beach hazard statement in effect for today, beach hazard statement in effect for tomorrow. And then you'd have to reissue the surf to get rid of today's statement once today's expires. So if you got statements in effect, having the hazards end at 0Z means you just issue the surf right around 0Z to, purge those old headlines. And just a side note, if you do have a beach hazard statement for strong longshore current, in the CSW there's a call to action statement already in there that you can just populate and add to your product. So you don't have to worry about typing out the, preparing a statement for a longshore current. Although we are forecasting for days 1 and 2, we're only keeping the surf hazards to days 1. This is what Charleston and Moore is doing, and I think we feel that a lot of mistakes can happen if we right now jump into creating hazards for days 1 and 2 and get pretty complicated. So we do want to eventually, hopefully, make our way to day 2 hazard statements, but for now, just stick to day 1. Days 2 to 4 will still be highlighted HWO, so be expecting moderate strong rips in the next couple of days. Be sure that's in HWO. Or strong longshore day 2. Might want to include that as well. And of course, during high rip risk events or prolonged rip activity, be sure to leverage social media and NWS chat as much as you can. Bring increased awareness. I think we did a good job with that during Lorenzo last year, but it's always better. So we want to be sure to put it out there when we're having pretty bad rip current activity at our beaches. So last August, we did add this Outlook section that's at the bottom of each county in our surf. Since we now have a full day 1 and 2 forecast, the Outlook section is only for day 3 and 4. And of course, day 5 is, it's a weekend, holiday, or something going on. It's mostly designed to highlight the rip current risk, but other hazards can be included if we think it's going to be, present in the next couple of days. Average 2 to 3 sentences. Sometimes 1 sentence works if it's, pretty mild. If you're expecting high risk, just include a brief, explanation as to why, distant Hurricane Lorenzo, swells, something like that. And then, of course, remember, Brunswick and Orange counties have 2 surf zones due to the coastline orientation. So if you're expecting different rip risk for the 2 zones, then mention that in the Outlook, that, moderate risk east of Ocean Isle, but low risk west, just to give more, as much detail as we can in the Outlook. So again, like I mentioned before, we call lifeguards twice a day. Very vital for our surf forecasting, verification, also for putting it on the online database, which was used for the rip probability model. So these lifeguard reports are extremely important. So we do have that green clipboard in ops that I will put the 2020 sheets in there as soon as, our surf looks like it's going to get up and running. Wrightsville Beach, we contact via radio. Carolina Beach, we call them on the radio, and they tell us who to call on the phone. And again, I mentioned this last year, but for Carolina Beach, please listen to them first before calling them to make sure we're not interrupting a rescue or, they're not busy. That was one of the things that the captain mentioned last year, that we had a habit of calling them during a rescue, and they were getting pretty frustrated with us. They're doing us a huge favor. So, and one thing I found I actually started doing last year was I just left the radio on scan mode. So if anyone talked at Wrightsville, Carolina, or Curry Beach, I would hear it. So it was good to just have it on scan, and, if I heard people talking or I had an idea of what's going on, if it was kind of crazy at 10 a.m., I'd give it 15 minutes and wait for it to calm down. So just something I wanted to reiterate to see what we do this year. This is just as I mentioned, we do enter lifeguard reports online. The link to this is on our Google site under either the checklist or the Rip Current program page. But but I do have some instructions here that for some reason there's no variable for incoming wave direction, so we've been putting that in the comment section. And so, of course, reporter ID is if you know the name of the lifeguard you're talking to. But this online reporting system, again, they use this for the rip current probability model that Greg Dusek created, and it's a nice database that we use. So as you go to lifeguards, just jump on here, and I think I still have a small column at the end of the beach blog where you can just check that you've entered it online, just that, because I've been known to forget to do it until 2 days later, so nice to just check it off to just remember to do it. Just a brief, again, new morning update, unofficial, but hopefully it'll be official before we start our surf. Well, they should, if you call a lifeguard somewhere around 10:30 to 11:30, includes up-to-date surf and weather. You need to update your rip risks with the new lifeguard observations. Just go in and update the grids first, so that when you populate the surf, it's already in there. If you think the surf heights are way off based on recent obs, you might need to just type that in the surf yourself rather than trying to edit the grids. I think with the calc surf height, the pixels are pretty small and individual. It might just be easier to, in the surf, just edit the text in there. And one thing I want to note, if you're updating the rip risks and the surf height with the morning update, please write down the new values in the afternoon section of the beach logs. We do our surf verification at the end of the year based on the morning surf, but the afternoon surf values will still go into the big Excel spreadsheet. So they'll still come. We still want to record what the new forecasts are. I think I mentioned that. Yeah. Okay. So some things I wanted to bring up from the beach logs that I've noticed the last couple of years, just common mistakes and some notes. Especially for the morning surf, please write down the forecasted rip risk and surf height that's directly from the surf product. For the zone that corresponds to each beach. Accurate forecast on beach logs makes verification at the end of the year much easier. Because if the forecast doesn't match the surf on the beach log, I gotta go back into each individual surf product to get the actual forecast. So it's just much easier if the beach log shows what was on the surf, and then I can just use that for verification rather than having to go back to our product. And again, for the afternoon, just write what was in the morning update surf. Something that I've made a lot in 2018 that I have to go back and redo verification is Sunset Beach forecast values should be the same as North Myrtle Beach. Sunset Beach actually lies west of Ocean Isle, so its forecast doesn't match the majority of Brunswick County. So if most of Brunswick County is moderate rips, but most Horry is low risk, odds are Sunset Beach is also low risk. So the forecast values on beach log should be the same for Sunset and North Myrtle. And one thing I wanted to note, Briceville Beach usually during their report gives us a depth over bar value in their report. So just write down this value somewhere on the log. You can just write it on the corner of the note section. It was just a little 4 feet. It was brought up at the meeting that depth of a bar, does have some significance for rip current activity. So I just want to, keep track of it and whatnot, see what comes of it. But right now, only Briceville Beach has been giving it to us, and just write it down. I'll see if we need to make it an actual variable on our sheet, or if we can be okay with not. I think we haven't actually recorded it in a few years now. And just last but not least, again, full step-by-step instructions are on our Google site. If you want a refresher on rip currents, if you think it's been a while, there's a comment that has a few modules, including the rip currents nearshore fundamentals, which I think is a good one. Mark and Steve are working on revamping these with new data, because I think it's about 8 years old or so, or maybe 5 years old. But the science in nearshore fundamentals is still good, so I think it's a good refresher while we're waiting for new modules. And we got a couple weeks and I don't know how we work this while, social distancing. But if anyone wants one-on-one surf refresher or, any more information, just let me know. Happy to help until before we get started. And that's it for me. Anyone got any questions? No, we got a lot of information there.
Nice job, Vicky.
Thanks. Well, if no one has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any if anyone's got it. Want to email me.
Vicky, a loosely related question: is there any documentation about the use of Viper radios online? Do you know?
I don't think so, but I could certainly add that to somewhere on my beach pages.
I mean, I honestly don't even remember how simple or complicated.
I
know that I'm going to be listening to the wrong channel at one point when I'm trying to do the surf this spring.
It's not like Jordan or Dave or I could just show you like how to use it and how to set it to scan or change channels. But I can also try to come up with a quick guide, put it on the Google site when I'm next in the office.
Hey, Vicky, it's Mark. Just a comment on the training aspect with the refreshers that may be needed. I've heard of a couple offices that have they've had somebody at a workstation kind of walking through something, and then on FaceTime, they're basically the person on FaceTime from that is remote is literally guiding the person that's on AWIPS. I've heard of a couple of situations like that we could get creative if we need to, and train people through it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would help for do a mock session before jumping right into surf. But yeah, we certainly work on how we can do a teleworking surf session.
And a couple other quick comments. One, the surf height versus rip level is really interesting. I've thought about that a lot. It almost could be a catch ball if just a secondary piece of guidance to give us confidence and kind of leaning towards moderate or high if we're on the fence or something. I kudos for that work. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I've got a suspicion that traditionally, I'm going to contradict this later in my talk, but wave period is very important for ocean characteristics, but I feel like the initial kind of legacy versions of the worksheet have weighed wave period a little bit too much, to the point where, especially when you have very short period events, say here you get a cold front, you get northeast winds that are blowing 20 to 30 knots, and the surf builds to 4 feet. That can still generate rip currents, and it can still be dangerous. But because of the tendency for the legacy worksheets to focus to not weigh those short period events enough, I think that can be misleading. So surf height versus rip current table that you're showing now could be a really big benefit to those kind of events, especially the really short period events that generate surf over 2 or 3 feet. So that's my comments. Great job, and keep up the great work.
Thanks. Yeah, I do have similar charts for wave period versus rip currents, and there is a spike around between 5 and 8 seconds. And so yeah, definitely rip currents are known for can happen with 4 or 5 seconds. And again, if you have 1 or 2 feet at 15 seconds, that can also. So it definitely varies. But yeah, no, short period waves can certainly be hazardous. They're tall enough. Well, that's it. Then that's all I got.
I think I have one question.
Okay.
It seems like, I think it was, Dorian, the last hurricane, I believe is the one I'm thinking of, when the hazard grid kind of got out of control with beach hazard statements for long shore currents and things like that. Is there going to be any kind of recommendation that we sort of call off the beach hazard issues during a tropical cyclone event?
Well, I think as of now, it's still surf and CFW surf hazards are still are now issued during tropical cyclones. I think that only came up in 2018. Before we didn't issue it, now we did. So I haven't heard anything reason why that, we cut back on surf hazards during tropical cyclones. Certainly not rip current risk, but I can see we can definitely look into longshore currents when it comes to, for forecasting high surf advisory or something like that.
Yeah, it seems like the issue that I recall running into was with the BH.S specifically, not necessarily the RIP, but the advertising longshore and all that. Yeah, it really got complicated, and I'm not sure it was really worthwhile messaging that in the middle of a hurricane warning. So it would be, I think.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that, because, yeah.
Okay, I think coming up with a best practice on that would be good.
All right, yeah, definitely know that. We definitely look into it, because, yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know how many people care about a strong longshore during a hurricane coming in, but, yeah, or it's like, yeah, getting pretty extensive and complicated, and one less product may help.
Right.
We'll look into that, sure.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for watching. This has been a presentation and production from the National Weather Service office in Wilmington, North Carolina.